What is up? Welcome to another episode of the Leviticus Rich Show. My name is Lenny Richardson, also known as Leviticus Rich. So, in this episode, I want to talk about a sort of a concept. Actually, I used, I shouldn't say a concept. Well, it is a concept, but an idea slash strategy I used in college that I thought was immensely helpful. I still think it's immensely helpful. I oftentimes, sometimes I'll get really introspective and I'll think about how can I improve? How can I do certain things better? And I maybe not as frequently as I should, but relatively frequently kind of use the strategy that I'm about to share with you. So this strategy that I use, it's sort of the idea of acting your way into a new way of thinking. And so what does that mean? What does it mean to act your way into a new way of thinking? Back when I was in college, for those of you that have, if you've never seen some of my content, I bring this up a bit. It's in the beginning of my book. I do talk about this, but I was super shy, super introverted, couldn't talk to girls, could barely talk to other people at all, couldn't make eye contact, just super anxious all the time, not very comfortable. Didn't particularly kind of like myself. I would stutter a little bit. Just a lot of things about myself I wasn't quite fond of. I didn't quite like about myself. And so, of course, if you don't like things about yourself, the best logical step to take is change it. If you don't like your physique, change it. Find a way to get a better physique, get in better shape, which, by the way, at the time, I also wasn't in the best shape. I was fat when I was younger, and I still had a lot of body fat when I was older. It kind of balanced out because I got taller. But I didn't like it, so I changed it. I didn't like my personality. So I used the strategy of acting your way into a new way of thinking to change it. And I still do that because no one's perfect. And inevitably you kind of, at least for me, I'll kind of see things about myself and I'm like, oh, I don't like how I do this. I don't like how I say that. I don't like how I act in this situation. I don't like this mindset that I've been sort of adopting or that I've been taking on. So the idea is to act your way into a new way of thinking. And by doing that, you ultimately become a different version of yourself. And hopefully it's a better version of yourself. So one of the, one of the places where I first kind of heard this idea, and there's a few different places that I can't remember exactly where I first heard this. But one of the places this kind of came up was from this book called Psycho-Cybernetics by this gentleman, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully I didn't screw the name up. And in the book, he is I believe he's a plastic surgeon, and he would do different, various plastic surgeries on people. And they'd all come in with sort of an insecurity that they have. You have someone that's a burn victim, for example, and they come in and they think to themselves, I don't like the way I look. I got burned. It's not me. I used to look this way. Now I look this way. So I need plastic surgery to get as close as possible to my original state as I can. I want to get as close. I want to revert as best as possible to what I used to look like. Or, you even have someone who just wants to do it for just purely cosmetic reasons. Maybe they're insecure. They don't really like their face. They don't like their nose. They don't like their lips. They don't like their body. And this surgeon would go and he would do surgery. He would change it. He would, make them the way they desired to appear. And what he found basically was that for a lot of these people, even though he would do the surgery, even though he would physically change the way they look, objectively, they would look different. They didn't feel different. And when they saw themselves, they still felt like the older, insufficient version of themselves, if that makes sense. And to me, it's interesting. It sort of makes me think about a lot of bodybuilders and a lot of people that exercise for the sake of, I'll call it vanity, for the sake of aesthetics. A lot of them have that. And I know I've had that too, where like you'll work out, people are saying like, oh, you look like you're in great shape. And people are saying that you are in great shape, but you don't feel like you're in great shape, or you don't feel the way people are describing you. And people are like, oh, what are you doing to stay in shape? Oh, you have, your arms look good or something like that. If you're a guy, or maybe if you're a girl, your butt looks good. And you think to yourself like, no, it doesn't. I look exactly the same as I've looked for the past like 3 years. I still look out of shape. You feel out of shape. And maybe objectively it's not true. To the outside world, you look very different. But internally, you haven't quite adapted to that new reality. You can't quite see yourself the way other people see you. So in the book, Psycho-Cybernetics, that was sort of the case with these people that would get surgeries. They would physically, objectively look different but they didn't feel different. So internally, the way they perceived themselves was the same as their less desirable version of themselves. Hopefully that makes sense. And so one of the things that he sort of talks about in the book, and other people have brought this up as well, but kind of focusing on the book, there's sort of the idea of you need to act, you can't just change the way you look on the outside. That alone is not enough to change your overall core identity. You need to change the way you act in order to change the way you think. So I sort of tried to adopt that in college. At times I wasn't the most confident person. And I would think to myself, well, who can I emulate that is confident? Who can I emulate that does exude this air of confidence or charisma or charm? And hopefully by mimicking them, by emulating them, I can ultimately be like them. I can, take on a new identity in which I feel more confident, or I feel more charismatic, or I feel more charming, or I feel whatever, goal I'm trying to accomplish. And while obviously, no one's perfect, and I still have a long way to go, but I do think that thinking, that strategy does help immensely. I'll say two figures in particular that I emulated a lot. One a lot in college, one I'm emulating now. In college, more so, for anyone that's watched Californication, fantastic show. The main character, whose name actually, as I'm saying it, I can't remember his name. It's crazy because Hank Moody. I don't know why I couldn't remember his name for a brief second. Hank Moody, I would emulate a lot, down to his style, actually. And it's funny because I don't know, for whatever reason, I kind of forgot that I did this. And I remember watching it the other day, maybe like a few months ago, Californication, and he was wearing like a leather jacket. He had like Chelsea boots on, like blue jeans and a white t-shirt. And I laughed about it because I was like, this guy's got good style. This is basically exactly what I wear every single day of the week. And it's funny because I thought about it. I was like, you know what? I think at the time I just copied him and I forgot. And I had been copying him for so long. I internalized that style and forgot that I was taking it from somebody else. It became my new identity. It became me. So I think that strategy actually worked so well that I forgot that I was even copying someone else to begin with. And admittedly, I do that now, not as much with Hank Moody, but another character, my favorite movie of all time, Limitless. I do that with the main character, Eddie Moore. There's a lot of traits about him I admire. There's a lot of traits I aspire to adopt. And I'm currently in the process of sort of acting like Eddie Moore in that movie in order to internalize those traits. I'm not going to get too deep into the movie, into the plot. I don't want to go on too big of a tangent and get too rambly as I often do. But in the movie, he's sort of this, rich guy, always dresses nice. He speaks multiple languages, very charming guy, able to sort of go out and just strike up a conversation with a random stranger and charm them. And people love him. And I think that's very admirable. I think those are good skills to have in general, especially with my profession as a real estate agent. But for just life, I just think those are good qualities, good traits to have. And so the way I plan on getting to that is I just act like him. And then by acting like him, of course, there's some things that if you speak multiple languages, you're going to have to take classes, which I'm doing now. But ultimately, the goal is to be like him. So I have to act my way into a new way of thinking. And then over time, as I continue to emulate him and mimic him and act like him, I internalize all of those traits that were desirable. And then I start to see myself very different. So me personally, if you're listening to this, and you feel deficient in some area, maybe you just don't quite like your personality, maybe you don't like the way you do whatever, my personal recommendation, just try it, is act different. If you want to be more outgoing, more social, just try to act more outgoing and more social. Find someone that you like from a movie, a character from a movie or TV show. Do what they do, dress the way they dress. So some people will say, well, I don't dress like that. Well, it's like the version of you now doesn't dress like that, but you can always just get different clothes and dress different. And then the more you do it, the more that new style becomes you. And then you do, at some point, you will be that person that does dress like that. You will become that person that does act like that. So hopefully that made sense. Hopefully that was straightforward enough. I definitely recommend checking out the book, Psycho-Cybernetics, if you don't want to read the whole book, because I know different people absorb information very different. For some people, sitting there reading a book isn't the most effective way for them to get information in. There's plenty of YouTube videos about the book, plenty of summaries out there. Just go check out one of the summaries. The whole concept is relatively straightforward. I don't think you necessarily have to sit there and read the entire book. Just read some cliff notes or spark notes, or like a summary online, or find a YouTube video where they break it down in like 20 or 10 minutes or 5 minutes even. And I think you'll get it. I mean, this podcast episode, I pretty much explained the book. So I'm sure it's not a complicated concept. It's just an interesting, thought-provoking one that I think is relatively easily applicable in your life. So give that a shot. Let me know what you think about this. I'm going to call it a hack. I'm going to call it a life hack. Let me know what you think about this life hack. Give it a shot. Leave your feedback. Let me know what you think. Was this information, was this idea thought-provoking, or was it just nonsense? Impossible. I don't say nonsense, but let me know what you think. And I will see you in the next episode. Peace out.